Hello. So during this episode of the Gold Pill podcast, there were several interruptions. Whether it's like our lovely guest, Meredith, getting kind of kicked off, to, just a lot of interference. And so if it's kind of choppy, that's why. Just wanted to share that. I also want to do a shameless plug for someone who's helped me a lot. His name is Simon. His website, you can go into Google and type the art of undoing craniosacral therapy. He's helped me a lot. I believe he might have even saved my life. So I just wanted to give him a shout. He has amazing craniosacral therapy, which if you go on the internet and you look into that, they'll say that it's quackery, which means that you really want to still look into it because everything that they say is quackery. There's a method to it. So without further ado, here's the next episode. I just had to plug my friend Simon. I'll put his link in the show notes. Thank you. Bye. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us at the Gold Pill podcast. I'm Meredith, and I'm here with Amy.
Hi.
Hi, Amy. How are you doing today?
Oh, it's a beautiful day. How are you doing, Meredith? It's great.
It sure is a beautiful day here too. So we're here today with someone named also Meredith, who is someone that I guess I met Meredith through Nish and through her Patreon page. Is that where I met you?
I believe so. Just kind of poking around there.
And
being on the same maybe message boards or something like that. Yeah,
definitely. And I've been observing, certain people and like scoping out people that I want to have on this podcast and stuff like that. And when I found Meredith's TikTok, I was like, okay, you know what? She gets it. She would be a really fun person to have on here to talk about this podcast. And, there's just like a look in someone's eye that they have when they've gone pretty deep in their own work and their own practice and their own life and in their own discoveries. And so thank you so much for coming on here, Meredith.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is fun and I look forward to the conversation.
Yay. So both Amy and Meredith, not Meredith speaking, but the Meredith that I am speaking to, live in California, but in different parts. And I know that you never really know like what's going on in a place until you hear it from people who actually live there. So one of my the top of mind questions that I'd like to ask before we delve a little bit into you and your story and your background and all of that kind of stuff and like what you do on a daily basis, I just want to know, like, how is California for you?
For me, you know what? It's really interesting because I live down in Orange County and I work in LA. And those two places are really different. They've got, it's just a different vibe in both areas. So it's been interesting to go back and forth on a daily basis. In LA, everybody is very gung-ho about, staying in line, masks and mandates and all of this. It's very strict up there. Whereas Orange County, you get, there's a lot more people here that are kind of pushing back against it. So it's interesting to kind of go back and forth between that. But I will say it's weird because where Orange County has been very liberal with their with the masks and just kind of being outside and living your life normally. In the last 6 months, more people here in Orange County are masking than they have been in the last year and a half.
Weird.
Yes. And it's really weird to me. It's almost as if they're more afraid now than they were even in the very beginning when this all started.
Wow.
That's interesting. And honestly, I'm going to say something that's probably would get me canceled as a truthy or I don't even ascribe to that or want to be known as that anyway. But it's like, I kind of feel like there could be a reason for that. Like for people being like more afraid now than then. Like I have a couple of friends who are like in the not wanting to get this fucking injection camp, and they are actually more likely to wear a mask now if they're going to be around like their like vaccinated friends and family. I can see kind of why. I mean, I'm not ever going to be doing that or like ever going to be like living in fear of that. Like I've been hugging everybody just the same, you know, but I wonder if that's why, because there is some phenomena going on, apparently, allegedly. So some doctors that are being censored say about like, you know, maybe there being like a spike protein transmission, you know? So I wonder if that's it. I mean, who knows really, but like, I wonder, you know, like.
You know what? I think that to me would be a favorable scenario because that would mean more people might have a better understanding around. But I have this feeling that it really is like they're more scared now for whatever reason. Like maybe all of the rhetoric surrounding like, well, you weren't doing enough. That's why we're in this situation. So now they're like, oh, you know what? You know,
interesting.
I don't know. It just does puzzle me because I just see it, I would say now versus 6 months ago, where less people were kind of complying with mandates here. Now I would say it's more, gosh, sorry, I'm kind of mumbling my words here.
Oh, you're good.
It's just more people. And so it puzzles me.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys, you know, we've been through this now for a few years, and I don't know.
That's interesting. I wonder why. Maybe we'll have to survey them. Why are you doing this now?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Well, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I've heard that LA is extremely compliant from specifically Misaki, who lives there.
Okay.
He's always like, yeah, apparently it's like full of people who look dead behind the eyes, which like really I see that everywhere now. Like I don't know, that doesn't seem to be specific to LA.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a concentration of that in LA, and it is hard because you feel the extra judgment there. Like it's you know, even, you know, you just see it, people walking outside, running trails, you know, doing things like this. It's just everybody is out policing each other there, and you definitely feel it. Like at least down here in Orange County, you can be outside doing outdoor things and not feel the judgment if you're not wearing a mask, you know, outside. But there, it's like you even feel it outside, and you're like, wow, guys, you know, yeah.
Wow.
And they do, you know, they have enacted the vaccine mandate for certain types of businesses, so you can't go in, and not every business is following, but there's certainly most are, and they're very strict about it. You know, if you don't have your passport, you're not getting in. You know, yeah.
So
that pisses
silly.
me off so much.
Me too.
Yeah, whenever I hear about something like that, I become like incorrigible because, you know, I have a friend who I won't say her name, but she lives in Canada, in Ontario, right, which is where they've done a lot of mandates and a lot of passporting already. And in that space, she's like, so she did get the first Moderna, and she like pretty much a couple weeks after started to have like, you know, myocarditis type symptoms, right? Chest pains and all of this. And she's gotten such the runaround from doctors and like, because in because in Canada, there's like, you know, it's more socialized medicine. So she's not able to pay anyone to like write her like a exemption. So she's having to kind of go all the way, you know, and it's just, it makes me upset because I know that a lot of people who have exemptions and who are injured from like earlier iterations of the jab aren't even allowed to, like, I mean, she has to carry like a like heart thing if she wants to actually have people believe her. And then even then, it's so sick. It's so sick. But yeah.
There's like a real moral judgment that seems to be coming from like the Hollywood area too, which is, I know, all over LA. So there's that piece as well, kind of where you're at, Meredith. It does seem.
Yes, and I, you know, for whatever reason, they all seem to go the way of wanting to control. I was thinking about this the other day in terms of like Neil Young and even like Howard Stern and how they're just so. And I was thinking, I'm just like, I feel like they're so detached from humanity that they literally look at us like the scourge now. Like, we are the muggles that need to be vaccinated and please keep away from them. They're so, at this point, they're so used to not wanting like people around them, right? That they just, I think it's easier for them to adopt this kind of idea that we all need it or, whatever.
Yeah. It's extremely
so
out of touch.
It's so funny because when I go on Facebook and I see like old friends that are, like very pro, vaccine and stuff, they are really loud and proud, and they're very angry at people who are like us who don't have the vaccine. And I always wonder if they knew it was me they were yelling at, like, would they be yelling these things? Because it's like, I imagine who they are yelling at, and it's like they're yelling at like a straw man. They're yelling at some like fake idea of us, and it's like, if it was us, it just would be so different. But I was just talking with my man this morning about how the number one rule about me and my vaccine status is like, I don't want to talk about it with people. I don't want people to talk about it with me. Like, it's none of my fucking business. So meaning like, that's above all else, like, we should not even be having this conversation with each other. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it's being forced upon us by mandates and freedoms and all that kind of stuff being taken away. Sorry,
exactly.
freedom.
Yeah,
but this should not even be something we have to be discussing. I don't discuss any other medical decisions with anybody, so this isn't going to be something I start doing. But to get back to it, it is this like boogeyman of someone they're yelling at. They're thinking of like the worst, quote unquote, like Fox News listener. They're thinking of the most like country person they can think of, because there's truly no person that like the white liberal hates more. This is true, than like the poor white person. You know what I mean? Like, they may not even be honest about it, but it's the truth, and it's wild to see come to life. But I go on.
No, I know, absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, we're rocking and rolling now, because I see like this, these propagandized like cartoon drawings, very much similar to, how certain other groups have been portrayed in history in the past in propagandized cartoons. It's just the face that's changed. It's not necessarily like anything different than history like playing itself out. But I have noticed that it's always like an overweight, like they would call them like Trumplican, and when I think about, and this is no judgment to anyone who is listening who has or hasn't capitulated to this, I really like, I love you anyway. And like, that's just like a baseline, like virtue value that does not change, no matter what. But I have noticed that it is like that overweight. And I don't, the people that I know that aren't like, or who are very much digging their heels in with regard to moving forward with this sham, are all like mostly pretty healthy, like pretty like emotionally informed, like solid, yet informed, like integrated, like significantly more than not necessarily people who have gotten the jab, because I have friends that have gotten the jab who agree with me and who love me and like who I love and like who I don't give a shit like what you do with your butt. Like because I don't care. Y'all are but specifically the people who are like really like heavily invested in like germ theory, the people who like are super super pro-vax in the sense that like everybody else needs to do something to make me feel safe and like to make me feel comfortable, or else you're selfish, which like I don't know how that works, but y'all have fun with that one. It's like,
but that's interesting that you say that, because we're coming off of a generation of people who in the media's eye anyway, went through college demanding things like safe spaces. And it is interesting to see that now that the world is like undeniably an unsafe space, like what do you do? And you see these tantrums just occurring, everywhere about this. It's wild.
Totally. And I was just going to say too, like how the people that have like launched like authoritarian arguments at me, like I was doxxed in my city last year.
Oh my God.
Because I said that I don't think that kids should wear masks like 8 hours a day when adults like get to go into restaurants and like, they put it on when they go in there and then they sit down because that is how intelligent this
I hope they all sent you flowers for being doxxed, for what a great idea and what a great thought that was. I hope everyone sent you thank you notes. I hope that's what happened.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Well, nothing really happened. Like nobody showed up at my house except for like this was like an unrelated event. I had a stalker show up at my house, but I don't think that was like, I don't think that that seemed unrelated to me. But anyway, like, so the group that doxed me was like these like neoliberal, crusty, like unhealthy as fuck pagans, like in North Carolina, unhealthy and overweight. No offense, like, and thinness does not necessarily equate to health. Like, I feel like I am a living example of that, but like, I think that generally like toxins are like, held in fat. It's not a problem, it's just, it is what it is. Obesity is like one of the leading comorbidities.
But isn't it funny? It's like you're not even allowed to have a differing, like, you can't even voice your opinion on the matter without certain type of like these militant people that are militant in their beliefs striking out against you. And it's not ridiculous to suggest that. And obviously, yes, we have all these contradictions in the rules that they lay before us, like the restaurant thing. And then you see these politicians or whatever, they'll visit classrooms and the kids have masks on and they don't. And it's like, and then we've all been saying for the past 2 years, how ineffective the cloth masks are. And of course, now they're admitting that and they want us to go deeper. But it's like, well, so you're saying that they weren't effective. So we were fine the last 2 years. So we used something that wasn't effective and we were fine. So let's just take them off. But isn't that so interesting? Like, you're not even allowed to say, these people don't even want, they're just, and I know a lot of people have been saying it in the media in the last couple of days, but like they champion censorship, Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the arguments that I've heard is that like, he's not giving an ultimatum. He's not trying to censor anyone and and I'm just like, okay, like at some point, I think that there's definitely like at least two groups that I'm seeing, that I'm noticing, one wants to live free and the other wants to exist in this kind of space. And, I wonder, like, does the earth just like split in half? Like what, I don't think that it does, but it's like, at some point.
I think what happens is we don't physically split, but I think we just kind of stop acknowledging each other. Yeah. I think after a while, people are just going to be done with it. And there's going to be common spaces, in which case you have to abide by the government rules or whatever. But I think it's like, if you're not the person who is interested in being at a mass gathering, like with your family, then you're not going to do that. You're going to go and have a normal, meeting with your family, have a normal, whatever holiday. But if you are the kind of person who's like now even like crazier than before, no offense, if like, but like, you know, take having everyone test, you know, before you have a family gathering, like hundreds of times,
I know
is truly wild. And I don't know if that's the way to go, but if that is your way to go and that's the paradigm you're subscribing to, then like, God bless, that's the world you're going to live in. But no one I know personally, with the exception of my mom who had a procedure and had to get a COVID test like done, has ever taken a test. I've known lots of people that have been sick. You know what I mean? It just depends on what paradigm you're subscribing to. And the more that you subscribe to the vax, the testing, the hypervigilance in that regard, like the more insane you get, because it's just going to get more strict. And they're going to get higher def on like what the restrictions are as far as like the new variants and this and that. And it's just like, oh, I can't even pay attention to it anymore. When people go off on, I mean, obviously the mandate stuff is like still very real, but it's like at this point, either get it or don't get it. Like it's none of my business. Like I've always said. And also like we can, as long as we don't have to argue about it, like we can coexist together. And as long as we can agree on like common rules of how to like coexist together, as far as like, do we need to mask to go inside the house? And if the answer is no, like, then we can hang out. Like, I just think it's going to be selection like that. And then it's just going to be your life kind of changes to those patterns, because I don't want to go to a store that's requiring papers. I don't have any in my area in California yet, but I don't want to support that. I wouldn't want to give them my money, even if I did have the papers. So I'm just like, oh, okay, new way to live my life. And I don't want to really go to the bowling alley or like go to concerts or go to support bands that are, you know, I understand that bands have to make money, but if that's how they're going to, I don't need to spend my money on stuff like that. So I just look at it as like an opportunity to see things for what they are. And then, you know, like everything's really kind of unveiled and you can kind of see everyone's hand at this point. And I think that we're all just going to align harmoniously like that. I think there's probably going to be a little struggle before we get there, but I think that's kind of going to be how it resolves.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. And especially since we see like England, you know, saying they're going to drop all mandates, and people I posted a TikTok about this, and most of the comments I get were like people, they literally couldn't believe that what I was saying was the truth. And I'm like, just go online and look it up, bud, because yes, they did drop their mandates. And it is like we're kind of splitting into two worlds. And it does seem that it seems that the people on the other side don't even realize that there's an opportunity to not even be living in that, you know, space.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of the people that like I kind of came into 2020 feeling like they were so radical, right? Like in a great way of like, fuck the system and like we're gonna like tear down and destroy it. You know, they are like bending over backwards to uphold it now. And, you know, I mean, what you brought up a good point with like certain places eliminating mandates, and that actually really ties into some of the astrology of this year, because like it kind of looks like things move from like this like dumb plague narrative to one that has more to do with like monetary stuff and food stuff and weather stuff. And we can kind of already begin to sort of see that. So I do wonder if like, as much as I know people like love and like live and die by this COVID shit, you know, like they really love it, you know?
Well,
I think
it is interesting how many it's changing. In what ways? Do you mean like we don't want to deal with COVID restrictions? We want to do the weather and the other stuff that you were saying?
Like, I just mean that like, I believe that enough people are like unpeeling from this and saying, hey, wait a second, this doesn't seem right, after like, you know, a couple of years of it. Like, I think enough people to where like, I don't think that they can keep with this charade, and that they'll need other things to like get us to capitulate, you know? So
absolutely.
I guess that's a good, I want to ask both of you actually about that. Have you been noticing any food shortages in your areas? Like I guess for Meredith, it's like you have LA and Orange County, assuming that you shop at both of those in both of those places, like to kind of draw on.
We do. We have the largest port here. We have the port of Long Beach. And so I feel so in both areas, I'm starting to see little things kind of disappearing off the shelf, like cat food has been canned cat food.
Ooh, same.
And that, but not many other things, like the paper products are still there. I'm starting to see like bleach and those kind of things disappear again. But I feel like because we live so close to the port, we're not seeing as many shortages as other people are.
Okay,
that's what I think too. Yeah.
That makes sense, because North Carolina is it's not a port town, but it is like a town that's, or a state that's on a coast, you know. So like, you know, for me, I haven't really, even in the mountains, because I recently moved up here, I haven't seen very many shortages at all, really, like in that way. So I'm, you know, I do think though that there's an aspect of this like freedom convoy, the truckers protest, that like would make a really nice cover for shortages in a greater, So if you're listening to this, stock up on food, because we do not want any gold pills to go hungry.
No. You know, it's interesting in Northern California too. We don't have a ton of shortages. It's weird because I did just see a headline in my local paper online that was like shortages coming to the North State or in the North State. And I don't know what they're talking about, because like truly, I mean, I guess I'm like I don't know, I go to Costco, so I never ever see anything that's like missing at Costco. And then I go to this place called the Grocery Outlet, and I mean, I notice more like sometimes like shelves of water, you know what I mean? Like space filler, but they still, what I really notice is like less option of the same thing. So whereas you would have had like 5 options for something before, you might have like 2 or 3 this time, or you might only have like 1. It's not an option. You have like one thing you get to, you know, pick. So that's the kind of stuff I'm noticing. But I also don't, I stock up, I go like for weeks at a time without going back. So I mean, I don't go on the day-to-day basis, but I have noticed the cat thing too, the cat food thing. And my mom has 2 cats. So I've been trying to get them this very specific kind of cat food, and every place you go online is sold out. Every place.
Online?
Of this one specific kind. Yeah. It's like it's like a Purina, like shreds. It's like a specific, it's like a cheapy kind. Yeah. It's not very nice, but it's cheap and it's yummy for the kitties, and that's what they like, and can't find it anywhere. So this has like been a personal journey of mine trying to help her with this.
Meredith, do you have a cat?
I do have a cat. I'm petting it right now. Yeah.
Yay! What's your cat's name?
You know what? We had named it Tiger Eyes, but of course, he just goes by Kitty now, you know.
Oh, meow meow.
Yeah, our little meow. Yeah, this cat. We love this cat. It kind of chose us. It literally just walked into my back door one day, and
oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Oh, it's so cute. And it is kind of like an indoor-outdoor cat, but he spends most of his time here, and we just love him. Yeah.
Oh,
that's great. I love cats. Amy, you're more of a dog person, right?
You know, I grew up loving cats so much, and I am personally more like I love the vibe of a dog, but I love cats, and I love taking care of my mom's cats. They're great. And honestly, if I didn't have to, the litter box is kind of what throws me off, but I do love an indoor cat. They're Totally. My cat was like super overweight when I had him, and he lived a very long life. So yeah, he was a happy little Buddha cat.
Happy chonker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aww. We love it. Well, cool. So let's see. What was I going to ask? Oh, well, you know, I think I was going to ask Meredith, are you into astrology at all? Like, have you looked into like your birth chart or like your signs or anything like that? I'm so curious to know if like what you know about yours. Oh noes. There she goes.
Okay. She'll be back.
She sure better be. I'm just kidding.
Well, it's about 31, like 45 if you want to mark it of when this happened, if you want to edit it out? Okay.
Let me know if you need a new link, Meredith. All right. I might have to like altogether give her a new link, which is fine.
Just kind of like piece them together or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my cat. Little him, what are you doing? Be careful.
Little Casanova, sweetie.
Little him. All right. Let's see if this
She needs a new link. Okay, cool.
Yes, girl.
Definitely want to ask her about her
Okay.
waking up experience. Hello, Meredith.
Hey.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know
No.
if that was me. Yeah.
It happens like
Oh my
all
God,
the
it
time.
happens. Yes.
Especially with us. We're like technology loves me so much. I think the spirit of the internet is actually like the opposite of whatever I am. You know, it's like it definitely feels like at odds sometimes. But
It's trying to beckon you to integrate it.
Right.
What do you like to integrate it? What do you mean, to assimilate
Like,
into it, or to
no, not to assimilate into it. No. To like, no, you know how like earlier you made my earbuds work at the command of your voice? Like you made that connect, like that's what it wants. It wants you to like be at its command, or you know what I'm saying.
That is so
like
interesting.
That's what I think. That's what I think it wants for us. It's like here it is. It's a tool. And like, there's obviously some energetic like tug of war going on right now. And it's like, I am but a tool of the tug of war. So you don't need to be sucked into me to like show other people. You know, I got into this whole thing with my man the other day because he was watching a video on like the scaries of TikTok. And I was like, yeah, I've known this for like a year or two. That it's got like some predatory features, but I was like, you know, I listed all the reasons why I like think it's fine to be on there for me personally. And it was like, ultimately, I think I came out victorious because there's all these things that are not great about it. However, I think that if we get stuck into things that aren't great, that's all we're looking at. And we're thinking about all like the people dancing and wasting their time. We're not considering all like the connections that are being made.
Yes.
All like the true, authentic energy that is truly, I think, like, and it's kind of like cultivated by TikTok. I think the algorithm selects for kind of a more like authentic, like raw version of people than the Instagram algorithm selects for. And so yeah, it's definitely, I think it's doing, I think whatever bad things it's doing, it's like having some unintended good consequences, which I'm not really used to saying out loud, but I think that's what's going on. Yeah.
And I've grown to agree with you that I feel that like, depending on who the programmer is, depending on like who has the keys to the gates, you know, I think that like I mean, obviously it can go several different ways,
100.
but I don't know, like I do feel like it responds to us. And you posted a TikTok yesterday, and that kind of thing, like that kind of came with that TikTok, which was just like that we can, like, because we are like vehicles of manifestation, I think that it would require like a higher level of consciousness maybe to interact with it this way, because it is
absolutely
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's here. It's not going away. Like, this is one of the problems that I have with like Alison McDowell's research, who she blocked me because I asked her about solutions that were outside of blockchain. Because I was like, what can we do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, but what can we do? And so, you know, but I think that like, if we all kind of have that like greater level of awareness and we stay within our heart space and, you know, we do the thing, then perhaps we can like, you know, shift the algorithm any amount. But yeah. So anyway, I want to ask, so Meredith, before we got disconnected, I was wondering about your, oh my gosh, my friend just sent me a picture of completely empty glass cases at Food Lion. Speaking of which,
oh no,
yeah, in like, well, she lives in like a more rural area. I haven't actually been to the grocery store.
Right.
In a while personally. Like I go to this food co-op about an hour away, and that really like takes care of all my needs. But anyway, so
that's nice.
Yeah, so I was wondering, what is your astrology? Do you know your sun, moon, or rising, or human design, or like what's the tea with that?
Okay. You got it. You know,
you.
I don't know any of those things. I obviously know
okay.
my sun sign. I'm a Leo.
No wonder. Okay.
I mean, I'll just say it. I'm at 816 and I love that number.
Okay.
I like in my studies over the years, I've weaved in and out of like learning things about astrology, but I don't know a lot about it. And I've looked at my chart from time to time, but it's not so etched in my mind that I recall all those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no worries. I love Leo, also Leo women, because I'm a Leo, and yay, I know. And Amy obviously loves Leo women too.
She's my mom. My mom's a Leo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Depending on like how that shows up, it could be awesome.
What a Leo would say.
Yeah.
But like, but one thing that I like is that you seem kind of like me in the sense that you're not like the copy paste Leo archetype. Like you seem a little bit more like humble, like you might apologize first if you were in the wrong about something, you know, like you seem a little bit more like subdued, a little bit less
subdued
like
is a good word. Yes.
Narcissistic. Like I feel like the energy of Leo, or the archetype of Leo, gets such a bad rap, and so it's really nice to
loyal, you know, we're lion-hearted, we're good-hearted. We don't all have to be overrun with narcissism, you know.
Totally not. And we're creative as fuck. Like Leo is like, I mean, Leo and Pisces really, like, which is all sun signs present, okay, like are the best, because Amy's a Pisces. Super creative. Yeah. So how did you find your way into this sort of like the intersection between like conspiracy and you know, maybe like learning about the archetypes, or just whatever it is that you're
like this little specific pocket of the world. You know what, I honestly, when I was young, when I was maybe 8 or 9, I had a UFO experience. Like a really a close up, like within 50 feet.
Holy shit.
My brother saw it too, you know, and that, I think that obviously changed my perspective of the world, because I realized at that point that there were things going on that weren't admitted in general, like in any situation. And so it kind of spawned my interest into the strange, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I love breath and breathing, and I've had some amazing experiences with breath work. I think it's so powerful. Yes.
I love breath work. I do that shit like at least like once every other day, just because I feel like there's things that breath work does for me that like not much else. Like there's crevices that like breath work reaches that I just don't feel like, you know, regular sitting meditation, or, you know, even like regular traditional yoga like reaches.
It gets you to a whole different place, a whole different level. I completely agree with that. But yeah, it always, you know, so I was interested in ghosts and UFOs and the strange and cryptids and things like that. I've just always been interested in things like that. And then it's weird because I really didn't about that experience until I was a little bit older, and I kind of like remembered that it happened, and then I spoke to my brother and confirmed, and then it just, you know, it just always sat with me. But then when I was I think it, you know, around 2005, somebody showed me loose change, you know, and I went down that path. So I was in like my early 20s, and was introduced to that. And then I started getting into just everything started unfolding with the nature of the world and the occult and, you know, just everything. I was really into Project Camelot and some of the early, like, you know, people producing this kind of content, and just kind of went down all these rabbit holes. And you know, I got into the 9/11 truth movement for a minute and was doing that, a lot of involvement in that down here. And then I've spent some time like volunteering in different areas of the UFO New Age kind of community, you know?
So cool.
Yeah. So I've just, and then I've had other UFO experiences since. Like I see them probably a little bit more than the typical person, you know? And some of my sightings, are definitely with other people, you know? Like my biggest sightings have been with other people. So it's always been this question and this like thing of my mind is just like, what was that all about? You know? What was that all about? Because my experience was so, I mean, it was like they were there for me or us, me and my brother, you know?
Totally.
Like it was there in our space, you know? And it's just always made me wonder why, you know?
So I have questions.
My
questions are, I have a couple of questions about the type of craft and like how that like came in and like what kind of like signature it came with, because you know, like I've heard of people having these sighting experiences where like they see a craft and like somehow like through, you know, osmosis or whatever, it makes them feel like sick to their stomach, or like somebody pushed on their belly button and they have to pee a little bit, you know, and it's like not good, you know. But I guess what I'm wondering is like what kind of like feeling, like did it feel like it was like your you know, interdimensional or extraterrestrial like brothers and sisters? Did it feel like they were observing you? Like I'm just really curious.
I felt like I was being observed, honestly, but I didn't feel, and I don't remember any specific physical sensations. But I do remember I do remember just being so curious, like, what is that? What is that? I'm in California now, but half of my family lives on the Upper East Coast, and I was in New Hampshire.
No.
You know it was going to get good.
Yeah, girl. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh. Do you have like an alien like tribe that you like resonate with? Are you like familiar with all like the different like alien archetypes and stuff, like the Arcturians and all that stuff?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, not really. Like I mean kind of like no.
No, not at all. Okay. Yeah, I don't like think there's
Not
anything
really.
like true to it, but I think it's like things.
Hey girl.
Okay, hi. So sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. I'm sorry that we're having interference, but I'm also not surprised like at all based on like everything like what we're talking about and just the energy of the conversation. I feel like it got really meaty just then, but we were thinking like that we should talk about something else for like 5 minutes just because like
to get about okay, yeah, that's
I don't
totally
know.
fine. Okay.
Well, no, just to like kind of switch up. I feel like the UFO stuff is like I don't know. I just feel like it's
signaled something
into the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you ladies lead, obviously, but yeah.
So, okay, Meredith, you were like young when all that stuff happened, but and that kind of made you like a mystery girl. But when did you? Yeah, I was a mystery girl too. Were you a mystery girl, Meredith, from North Carolina?
Hell yeah. I was super into like ghosts and like the paranormal and stuff like that when I was young. Cause I
Yeah, right. Yeah, I always thought that there was like that was normal stuff that like people, I didn't realize it was so weird because I was an only child, and so I didn't have a lot of feedback in that regard.
And then you soon learn, like when you try to share about it with people and they're like, what the fuck? And then they try to like handle you, you know, this way and that way. And then you're like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, they're like, I just want to play basketball. Yeah, they're not interested. So.
I just want to play basketball.
So you grew up on the East Coast, you said?
Well, you know what? I was born there, but I've been out in California since I was about 4 or 5. So.
Oh, okay. And always in Southern California or other parts?
Always in Southern California. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, my boyfriend's from down there. He's from like the Santa Clarita area, and it was I can't even imagine being a teenager growing up in that area, just because it's like the world is truly your oyster and there's like a million things to do. And LA was truly like in my opinion, like at its peak in like the late 90s, you know what I mean? Like with just the music scene and everything kind of busting at the seams. So yeah, great time to be down there. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love it down here personally. I mean, there's a lot of things that people can say about it, and they are true, but it's just geographically and like you're saying with the culture and everything else, but just with the ocean and the mountains and all of the different types of nature that we have to choose from around here. It's just so beautiful. I love it.
Yay.
Yeah. I could never not live in California. I don't think as bad or as like crazy as it gets, or that people talk about it like it's kind of a big one too. And it's really like if you're just like living here doing your own thing, it's not so, it's, you know, if you're like really interacting with the matrix, I guess like it's probably pretty oppressive. But if you have, you know, ways to live your life without that, you know, it's not so bad. You can't really even tell. So
people really do call it like California, which I guess like because it wants to like double taxes and like wants to do all this shit. I guess I get it, but so
everything's just always like expensive in California. That's just like the way it is though. So it's, I don't know. It's sort of, well, I'm always just like, I'm down for the ride. Whatever's going on is going on. But I definitely see why people would want to get the fuck out if that is not your vibe.
Definitely. So I would like to kind of circle back, Sally, to some of the UFO stuff. Like just to, like since we've kind of like moved away from it, maybe we could like move back and like hopefully we won't get disconnected again. So like in your experience that you had when you were younger, I know you mentioned that you felt like they were here for you and like they were observing you. And if you just want to tell us more about that experience, we would love to know.
Okay, yeah. Well,
tell us everything.
Okay, well, like I said, basically I was visiting my grandfather, and he lived in New Hampshire, and he lived in this beautiful 2-story home, and in the back was a big backyard, and at the edge of the backyard was a forest. And the forest wasn't too far off of the sides of the house, maybe like 30 feet at most, you know, in some parts. Anyways, I was in bed one night in the corner room upstairs. I think I was asleep, but I just remember waking up and seeing a craft over the top of the trees right at the edge of the forest that met the yard. I mean, it was right there, and it was circular, and it had flashing lights around it, and they were different colors, and it was not making a sound because it was summer and the window was open. So and it was moving really slow. I kind of woke up and saw it through one side of the house, through one window, and I was watching it slowly moved over the trees, you know, to the other window. And then at some point I got up and I ran into the room my brother was sleeping in, and I woke him up and I brought him to the window. I said, look at this. And we're just looking at it glide over the top of these trees. And then it gets to the front of the trees, like where the driveway would end and the street would start. And it just zipped up into space, like,
whoa,
just gone.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was just gone. And it was bewildering at the time. I think we had both woken up from a sleep. So I don't remember like sitting there like, oh my God, like, what did we just see? You know, I feel like we were half asleep and we just kind of went back to sleep. and then kind of didn't talk about it for years. I don't even remember why I started thinking about it again, but there was a period of time where I didn't think about it at all, and then it kind of like resurfaced in my memory, and I was like, oh yeah, like that
How
happened.
how
And
old
then
were you when that happened? The resurfaced memory, just out of
I
curiosity.
think I had to have been around like 12, 13.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like a couple, because I was about 8 or 9 when it happened. So some years had passed. And I was like, oh yeah. And then I, talked to my brother, and he confirmed like, yeah, I do. That did happen. And he doesn't care. Like to this day, he acknowledges that happened to him, but he's not that interested in it,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, I'm totally obsessed with it. I'm just like, why, who are they? What
Yeah.
do they want? Why are they here? And
Yes.
yeah. And so I had that. And then I've had like other close, sightings in my life as an adult, and so it's just so bewildering and interesting to me that I've always just been so interested in it. It had me, enter into the UFO kind of conference scene, just kind of searching for answers, listening to different people, kind of seeing what's out there, what felt right. But yeah, mostly my experience with that was I was kind of bewildered. I was probably half asleep, but I did feel like they were there observing us. That's the main feeling I get.
Do you think that, and like, I'm not, you can like take this question however you want to take it, but do you think that like there are beings that like specifically want to observe or like, contact or whatever, connect with like humans that have like a little bit more of like a meta gene or like a psychic ability, or like, because I feel like if you see craft more than most people, or if you go into the forest and you're more likely to see like the fae or like the cryptids or like elementals or whatever, like I don't know, it stands to reason to me, like you come across to me as someone who has like a deeper like sight ability, so I'm just wondering, like, do you think that what do you think about that? I don't know.
It's definitely something I've thought about. And then you hear all the things about like, are they doing genetic, this or that? I don't know. But if I could
Yeah.
guess, I would guess that probably there might be certain types that are paying attention to certain types. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I'd love to know,
Yeah.
what is it? What and why,
One of the
Go ahead.
One of the things that I heard, I actually heard this yesterday, and I was like, damn, I was like, ding, 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 like in my head, I forget who even said it, but they said the real sky or the real space is in your mind. Like, you know what I mean? And I just thought that was so, like profound, because it's like you can be with a group of people and maybe like you're one of the only people that's like, I don't know, like initiated into a deeper level of whatever gnosis, I don't know, and you can see something but everybody else doesn't see it, and it's like, I just wonder, about that, like about the state of your mind, the state of your pineal gland, if that's much of a thing, or the state of your consciousness at the time. But yeah, really interesting experience. Thank you so much for sharing that. Amy, have you ever had a contact experience or a UFO experience or anything like that?
No, nothing per se like that. I had one of my first like meditation experiences. I can only describe it as like being zapped out into like, outer space, like utter like blackness with like stars
Yes.
or whatever. And then just like feeling an absolute oneness and peace and calmness, and kind of just like beginning my journey, like there,
Oh my gosh.
my self journey there, and like kind of, there was something to that. But I guess there was like, work done before that, but that was the first time that I was really like, I'm gonna go. I was going outward with it for a couple of years before I realized go inward with it. You know what I mean? Like that's
Totally.
where it's all gonna start, really happening. And so right when I kind of made that choice or whatever, and I was making lots of improvements in my life kind of definitively, that happened. And I have kind of, that's what, when people talk about contact experiences, that's the closest I can ever come to, just because it was. And there's been times when it's like, there's been great moments of like suffering or whatever, like emotional or whatever, and there's definitely like a presence that's like it registers on my radar, but I don't know what that is either. But it's definitely like this overwhelming like calmness, and like I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like it kind of like transcends words. But it's just like a feeling. Yeah,
you talk about you that sounds like a place that I have been. Like the void, or like it's like the great nothing, like is how I would claim it. But that sounds, in our world, which like I perceive to be like an inverted world, where like whatever they tell us it is like the opposite, so they talk about like the light, and like they talk about heaven and all of this shit, right? And, maybe in the inverse, like that dark matter, or like that total darkness, that total great nothingness, like is like light. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you call it the great nothingness, because I would call it like the great like everythingness. It's all the potential. Yeah, like it's all the potential. It's everything right there. It's like it's all just like waiting to happen. It hasn't happened yet. Where I would say the light is shedding on things that like are occurring right now. The darkness is not yet in the light, so it's all just pure potential. And
yeah,
I definitely, when I was there, I've heard people describe a blackness, and they've described abject terror. And that is, first of all, there was a lot of stuff going on. It wasn't like black. It was like the stars. Like it was, beautiful and sort of like hypnotizing, and like, but not hypnotic, but that wasn't its purpose, but it just was like, it wasn't like there was nothing going on. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm alone and this is all there is. It was like, oh my God, this is it. That was what it was. And so, yeah, I don't see it as the great nothingness, but definitely that's a lot to do with perspective as well. And we all have our own different interpretations of stuff. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Definitely.
That's interesting that you guys are talking about that. I'm reading a book right now called Dark Light Consciousness, and it talks about
interesting.
It talks about like the dark melanin aspect of I believe it's our DNA, and how important that is, and maybe that is kind of like that portal to that space that you guys are talking about.
That is so interesting that you say that, because I've always, y'all know that I'm a little ish new to like some of these things, not
in this lifetime,
but also like, I had a lot of like walls up around, or like where I feel like I was kind of protected even from going too deep into like the concepts that like you guys both have had like years and years and years with. Like I feel like I kind of like I showed up like right on time, but a little bit late, but also it's like I think that is the case because maybe I wasn't integrated enough within myself like to look at some of these ideas and some of these things. But I don't know, I in that process, I feel like I haven't taken on also a lot of people's like truth or programming, so I kind of have like a little bit less of that, I think, than, not that it's not, nothing that I say hopefully comes across as like a value judgment. I just don't have that, like, I haven't been listening to things like Project Camelot or whatever for like years and years and years. And I feel like that gives me less information, but like less information.
You're not as tainted, because
maybe
we went through all of these waves of probably a lot of disinformation that we was needed to be waded through. So
I never
always
got to that. But one thing that I was going to say was that, like, I have kind of always had like a different concept of space, like even as an astrologer. And I've never really learned about too much about astronomy. And so I wonder too, like, are these different pockets in our DNA, kind of getting back to what you were saying, like, are these pockets like our gateway into like other times, other spaces, other realms, lives that either we've lived or our ancestors have lived, and are we our ancestors? And these are the things that I just like mentally masturbate about all the time. But yeah, so
yeah, the ancestry thing is really interesting because I remember seeing a TikTok, I don't know, about a month ago, where it was like basically the guy doing his math of like how many ancestors he actually has. And by the time you go back like 4 or 5 generations, you've got like thousands of ancestors. And then it's like, let's go back even further than that to like the beginning of time, in which case, like, God is our ancestor. You know what I mean? So I'm always like, ooh, what are we talking about with the ancestors? And then it's like, ooh, that makes it so much more fun because it could mean any of those things. And then it's like, I can get really behind. I don't know. I love mentioning people and things that were really impactful into the world in great ways after they've passed. I think it's a great way to keep them alive. And I know that's a lot of there's stuff in the Egyptian magical systems that's really important for, I don't know, I'm just really into like the revivalism of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. Definitely.
Yeah. So Meredith, I heard from your Instagram that I heard through the grapevine that you work with cannabis, like professionally.
Yes.
And I would love to know everything that you want to tell us about that. How is that?
Okay.
I bet it's so nice.
Sure. Yes, I love it. You know, a long time ago, I was like, when I was thinking about my life and what I wanted to do, I was like, you know, I want to be involved in something like something that helps people. That's something that heals people. And it was, you know, a thought at the back of my mind. And I, you know, I've had other types of jobs. I was in marketing for a long time, but about 7 years ago, I was offered a job in the cannabis industry. And only recently have I realized, like, wow, I did kind of realize that, at least wish that I get to do that. I love working with the cannabis plant. I think it's awesome. And I think that it's possibly extraterrestrial. It's just this just amazing plant that has all of these qualities that most other plants, you know, that a lot of plants don't have. But I love it. It's awesome. It's my job every day. We're there. It's a legal operation and we grow, you know, cannabis, and we, every day I get to touch plants and have, and it's awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it because I had an office job for like 10 years, and I sat in a chair and you know, just did all that. And this job is very physical, and like I said, you get dirty, and I
love that.
I just love it. And the plant is very amazing. Yeah.
That's lovely. I think to go from like an office job where I assume you're sitting like all day and like the same seat and like looking at a screen, and then to go from that to working with this potentially extraterrestrial, which, like, let's put a pin in that because I want to come back to that. Like, you know, this potentially extraterrestrial plant, and you have your hands in the dirt all day, which is supposedly has incredible benefits for like mental health and for all sorts of things. And where I live, actually, so in North Carolina, herb is not legal.
Okay.
But there is a medical grow operation that is starting where I live. And I just had this like, well, maybe, you know, like, you know, because I mean, I'm very open always to like changes of pace and stuff like that. And I think that it just sounds really lovely. You make it sound really, really ideal. And
it's fun. You know what? It's not for everybody, especially if you don't like laborious work or getting dirty, you know. But again, I going from an office job and then coming into a job that you have to exert a lot of physical energy. I just love it so much that even if it wasn't even with the plants, that right there was a huge change for me. That is just so rewarding because you're getting to move your body around and get your blood flowing and your heart pumping, and it just, you know, it just feels great. But then, yes, working with the plants, I mean, you come to realize and understand, obviously, which many of us already know, this is simply just a plant. You know, it's a medicine that either, you know, I don't know how it came to be here, but it is here. It's provided for us, and it has so many uses, you know. And
definitely,
I feel like the plant knows that's the purpose of the plant. It's here for us, just like other plants are, you know.
That's interesting. You know, there's so much. I just want. Wait. Okay. Where were? Okay.
Cannabis. Okay. It's not for everyone.
Right. And you said that cannabis plants are like, or the cannabis plant itself has like so many different uses. And I think that like when people hear cannabis, they think of like Cheech and Chong, like, you know, smoking all the weeds, which like we love that use for it as well. Here at a Gold Pill podcast,
no hate. Yes.
Yeah. But I know that like there's a ton of uses actually that hemp has that is, you know, that are like is very what's the word, utilitarian. Like you could make like, you know, you could make a house out of hemp. You can make clothes out of hemp, and it would solve probably a lot of problems. You could make fuel from hemp. It's like a great nutritional
and
source.
Yes.
And so it's really interesting to me how like it's so like instead we're using all of these really like noxious and like toxic chemicals and materials for something that could be so abundant, and that you said the energy is like it's here for us, you know. So yeah, just love that.
Yeah, it really is. And then even if, like you said, if you don't want the psychoactive aspects of the plant, even, you know, there are other healing capabilities like on a topical level or the CBD or the different compounds that don't have those effects that you can still benefit from, you know. It's such a giving and beautiful plant. And it, to me, it has one of the most unique flowers of any plant that we have on this planet, you know.
Absolutely.
The bud that is its flower. It's just I never get over it. Every day I'm walking through these rooms and I have like 1,000 or more pictures of plants on my phone because I'm just like, oh my God, this one is, look at this leaf, look at this one.
Well, you know? Cannabis is so neat too because we have receptors in our brain. I think like multiple receptors for called cannabinoids, I believe, and it's like you are built to receive this on multiple levels. So even if you don't, like you said, that you don't partake of the psychoactive, you know, elements of it, even if you think of it as far as like oil or just any sort of thing you're ingesting, your body is like built to receive it. So not just on the brain level, but on the body level, we are like a puzzle piece with it in some sense of the word.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's fun. And I love that, you know, in California it is legal. And then it's legal for you, any individual without a license of any type, to have 6 plants of their own, you know. And so I have some plants in my backyard too. And I'm actually out here with them right now. I just love them. They're just beautiful giving plants, you know, and then to know that at least if it's bringing relief or joy to the people that it's going to, that has brought me some, how do I say it? That just, it feels good. You know what I mean? To at least be doing
satisfying.
Like that.
We love making meaning. That's for sure. And
absolutely.
You know, you said something too about like how it's extraterrestrial. And so I have a question for you that's kind of off this beaten path. And then Amy has also a question for you before we wrap up. Yeah. But like, so I was wondering, like, do you feel, because you know how like people are like, we're living in the Matrix, And so to me, like, if something is terrestrial to here, or like comes from here, then it's probably a series of zeros and ones. You know what I mean? That's how I see it, because I fuck with like the machine theory, or like the holographic like simulation theory or whatever.
Okay.
And so it's like, is everything that is good, like the three of us, and mushrooms, and crystals, and even trees and plants, and all of these things, like, is any of this like, quote unquote, terrestrial, or like, from here? Like, I just don't know. So my question is, where do you think we are? Just no pressure.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's, yes, I think that probably, gosh, what am I trying to say here? I think
it's a really weird question.
Whatever
I apologize for putting you on
here,
the spot.
Yeah, well, it's like whatever started here and where we're at now, I think there was definitely influence from extraterrestrials, and so I just feel that there is influence in our evolution, and then possibly, the appearance of certain plants or I don't know, aspects of our planet here that were probably introduced or brought here, that, I guess that's where I'm kind of coming from. I think we were definitely tampered with.
Yeah.
But
absolutely,
maybe, and I don't know, I like to contemplate the holographic thing as well. And if you're thinking about it in that terms, is there really a difference between off planet and on planet? And
ooh, snaps. Yes.
Dang, that is deep, Meredith. I just love saying that, because it's like, am I talking to myself, or am I talking to you? We don't know.
No, but like, even deeper though. And I was thinking, like, even like, not only are you named Meredith, but if it is holographic, like, are you not her and is she not you?
Yes.
Oh my God, are we the same?
Yes.
Oh my
we're all each other.
Yes.
I struggle with that, obviously, because I guess, and this is where, like, sometimes my brain is like more of a hindrance than a help, even though I feel like it does help me. Like,
we love your brain.
I love, thank you. I appreciate that. But
yeah.
But I do feel like the, like, needing things to make sense aspect can kind of get in the way of, like, maybe achieving like these like very expansive like realizations and states, where I hear people say, like, I am you, you are me, we are all one, and I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, maybe, but like, from here, like, fuck out of here. Like, from here, I'm me and you're you. You know what I mean? So maybe on some level, we all have that like component.
I think
but do we all have that component? Because I see some people out here that I'm like, I don't fucking share. You know what I mean? So yeah, these are just my
think
thoughts.
It's like a paradox, right? Like, I think it's like, I am you, right? And that, like, we all have like a body that works kind of the same for the most part, Okay. And like and then, but I'm also not you, and I'm also you because we're comprised of the same elements, and there's all, all that kind of stuff. But I'm also not you because I have the psychological capability to differentiate myself from you. So obviously, like, they're both sort of true. Like, on like a very natural, basic level, we are all the same. But on a level of like, have a raised consciousness, and like, we have egos for a reason, sometimes out of check, but for a reason nonetheless. And they're all, but I think it's a paradox. Like, on some level we are all each other, but like, on this like level of like, we all have to like get by and survive and like have friends and all, like, I think that like, we are all very much, not each other in that. So I think it's kind of a mixture.
Levels to this shit.
Goddamn. Yeah. So Meredith, on the Instagram that we have for Take the Gold Pill, we sort of explore the purple lights that are happening all over. And a lot of people ask about them because I post lots of like random disparate narratives about them. And the thing that I find most interesting is that even when it's an official narrative about them, none of them like harmonize or overlay in any sort of sense making way. So I guess my question to you is, what do you think about that? And then to kind of wrap it up, what do we think they are? And so go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's two down the street from my work, and I noticed them right away. And they're right next to each other, and they're right next to an elementary school. And I know,
sorry.
It's like, I was like, oh my God, because they are very mysterious and curious. And I posted a video about it, and as soon as I did, somebody came on and were like, oh, you know what, this was just
manufacturing error,
you know, blah blah blah. I'm like, are you sure? Because it seemed to go out everywhere, right? In only specific spots. And what are they doing to recall it? How is that that seems like way beyond a type of error. You know, we're talking a different light, you know, frequency. It's completely different. And I've seen, I think it was you ladies who posted a video about somebody that was looking into, I forget what they had found, but they had found some kind of possible use for this light. And my mind kind of tends to go that way. Or I don't believe that it's just some error with a manufacturer. I feel like there is a purpose to them. I feel like it could possibly be used to scan, because that kind of seems like they use that light frequency for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you know, and who knows? I love just throwing out really like crazy conspiracy theories, but like maybe it's going to work in tandem with the 5G, you know, I don't know, you know, but it is curious. And I don't believe what people are saying when they're just, and I didn't know what you just said as far as different stories as to why that's happening. So that is even more intriguing. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Amy. I just have to say, like, I have had like such a strong aversive response to those lights. Like when I was driving in Charlotte, like, which is where I used to live in North Carolina, the first time that I saw one and I went under one, and I'm one of those people that like had to move into a cabin in the woods, like because of how like energetically sensitive I am. And like, I try to do all the things, like protect myself and like all of this. But I think that certain people are like certain ways for certain reasons. And maybe like, you know, there's a purpose for me being like this. You know, so, but I'm very, very, very sensitive to like energy, especially like in my body, like the way that my body responds to certain things. I'm just very open, I think, in that way. And like, it's not necessarily always a good thing either, you know, but when I went under that light, like last year, maybe in the spring, and I posted about it on my memeing Instagram page, which is, I think, where, and Amy and I maybe originally connected actually on like these purple lights. They brought us together, damn it. Like, so that's sweet. Yes. But like, I remember seeing these lights going under one and being like, oh my gosh, like that thing is so caustic to my being. Oh, wow. Like just feeling like that thing, whatever that is, just read into my soul signature, like knows exactly who I am, like knows, you know, and it just freaked me the fuck out, like, to be honest. And every time I went under them, I noticed that it would like maybe cause like a little bit of a tear in my aura, or that it would like, I noticed that it was very aggressive and very abrasive, you know. And then to sort of like get real woo with it, like some of the inoculations allegedly have this component that lights up. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So if this is the type of lighting that we're going to see like more and more, like moving into this like weird transhuman future, then are we going to like know immediately, like, because obviously people are using these cards, at least in the States, and I'm like, well, that's only going to last for so long, right? You know, I'm like, are we going to know like pretty soon who has and who hasn't? Because it's going to be very evident based on like who lights up, you know, and who doesn't. So I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah. I always think of like, you know, like they used to have those like exposés on like hotels and like businesses, and then go around like with the black light, and they would show all the disgusting stains.
Yes.
And it was like, ooh, never stay at a hotel because they're disgusting. Okay, so that's what it makes me think of, is like it's something that is okay, so basically it's something that is like high definition of kind of like gross things, or like sterility is what it makes me think of. And then I also think of like, as we move into like a more like digital 5G like merger of spaces, whatever, I think that it's like the same way that you would have like an antivirus run. I think it's like sterility becomes like this really important aspect to I don't know, somehow this component to this. And so I don't know if it's like playing out that, you know, that linear or whatever, but I think there is something. And I also know that like whatever you want to believe about who is in charge, I know there is like a very like authoritarian like lilt when someone has that to like cleanliness and like kind of order, and so it just kind of makes me think it's like there's something going on with that. And again, I don't know if it's like these are all things that are caused because of that, or just things that are coming together because that's just like what's in the air right now. I don't know, but
that is super interesting.
Yeah,
Amy.
that really is.
Well, because like if you think about it, well, damn it, now I don't want to get off of this, but like if you think about it, like all of the serial killers that like we see in movies, they really do like require like such a like pristine, like sterile space. Like I think of like Dexter. I mean, even though he's like that nice serial killer, like that serial killer that you root for or whatever, but he was very clean and very tidy and like has a very orderly, you know, type of existence going on. And, you know, it does make me think of that. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's such a futile effort though, to like get rid of all of the quote unquote germs or whatever on this planet, because humans are made up of germs and made up of viruses and made up of like all of these different things, you know, so to try to like remove like all of the diversity.
Yeah, I think
life,
the more sterile a situation is, the less human it is. And I feel like humans will never, you know what I mean? And it's like they want to move us away from our own humanity, and that's just impossible.
So
true. We're beings of this earth, you know, no matter where we might have come from or been influenced from, like we stand with our feet on this ground, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I could sit here and talk with you ladies all day, but I know we are on a time crunch.
Yeah, that's my bad. But it was lovely to talk to you, Meredith, and thank you so much for joining us today. And
thank you. Yeah.
What's up?
I wanted to just say, I really want to add a segment where we call it the gold pill of the week. And I just wanted to talk about like Canada and how I'm really stoked about Canada. And that's a real, I know there's lots of people that are whatever, but I think the overall like opinion is that it's a pretty good thing no matter what happens. So that's the gold pill of the week.
I know, that's interesting. Yeah. Fuck. Well, damn it. Why did you have to go and bring that? No, but
sorry, ladies. Okay, we gotta go.
No. No, it's okay.
It's okay. I have so much to say about that. But yes, gold pill of the week is the Canadian truckers, and how a lot of people, despite what the rhetoric is, are coming together in actual genuine unity, which I find really amazing. And, you know, hopefully, I don't know, because I saw The Simpsons, you know, the Simpsons allegedly like the trucker convoy was something that played out in that narrative. And you know that like the creator of The Simpsons is like a fucking like predictive programming, you know, and evil dark occultist. And
there was a card in the
yeah. So I'm hoping that like whatever this is does not advance like whatever the agenda is, because remember how I was saying how like, you know, we're moving maybe away from like there will still be viruses, because I believe that half of the population has injected themselves with a literal weapon that can be like, you know, that can trigger certain viruses in certain people. And arguably that's been going on since before this time. So I'm not saying like that goes away, but it does kind of fade into the distance for other narratives like food shortages and like things like that to take root. So I'm just wondering, like, I just hope that it's not like being used to advance that, or like some kind of like civil war type of
absolutely
thing.
But in the event that it is, it's good to think about that these like possibilities, and like definitely, you know, get your green thumb going if you can. I know there's like ways to grow food, like on like very small spaces now. So I mean, just start thinking about stuff like that, how you can kind of become more self-sufficient. That way it's like no matter what comes, you can be as, you know, as protected with your family as possible, and your friends and all that stuff. And you know, it's one thing, even if this is all like some horrible sham, this trucker thing, that it all goes to shit. Like at least we had this moment where people like felt unified, and that doesn't go away, you know, like that's real, and we get to carry that on. So that's my real cold pill, is that, you know, it's cool to see people like legitimately and authentically come together and like hand out food and beer to each other in solidarity, you know, like it's sweet, it's nice. So
Definitely.
it feels
beautiful.
good.
And another gold pill aspect of that is how many people are looking at like The Simpsons and the Illuminati card game and all of that, while still supporting like this effort for like freedom and like liberation of all humans. Like, I just think that that's a really cool. It's cool to be able to hold multiple truths in your head simultaneously, while also not like throwing all the babies out with all the bathwaters. Because I just noticed, like, I mean, I'm thinking of this one person in particular who like claims that like our energy centers are like a demonic like inversion. And so they like, he like claims to be able to remove like chakras like for himself and for other people. And I'm like looking at him like intuitively, like with my psychic sight, and I'm like, you have chakras, bro. Like, you know. So
he's a self-hating human.
I know, yeah. And so I'm just like, I get like the need to like, there are like a lot of distortions in everything, because like my favorite mystic Steiner talks about, like we are like we have been in a very dark age for quite a while. So of course there's going to be mistruths and, you know, inversions and people using like these concepts for like materialistic aims and, you know, stuff like that. But I don't know. I just think that it's my point with all of that was that it's really nice to be able to see, you know, all of these different threads and still be in support of a movement that could be potentially unifying like all of these different Canadians. And y'all know that I want Canada to like rise up against this ridiculous shit, and I want their travel to be open. And you know,
absolutely we want Canada free. We want it all open and free. So get on board.
Absolutely.
Or get lost.
More of that.
Yes.
Also not being under like any kind of you know, delusion that this 1,000 year, potentially longer plan that's been in the works is going to just go away because people showed up at a house of a puppet in Canada and are Hong Kong, you know?
No, it's not going to go away, but you know, like it's go out in that storm and like, and bring it on, you know, not like bring it on, like I'm waiting, but just kind of like, you know, it's we're still like there's still a lot of like cool shit going on despite like in spite of all the bullshit that's happening. So that's what but also don't lose sight of the bullshit either, because it's a nice grounding factor.
Yeah, I'm glad that we all had this chat today. And I would love to have Meredith back on the Gold Pill podcast if she'll have us.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and thanks for working with me through my breathing issues. No, I'm kidding. But this was a lot of fun, and I would absolutely love to. So thank you, ladies, so much. Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great day, you guys. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, where can they find you if they want to find, or do you want them to find you?
I mean, I don't know how much I have to contribute to the world, but you could find me on Twitter probably at Sapper Out Media. That's a Latin word, so you can just Google it. Sapper Out Media on Twitter. And
Love
yeah,
it.
I'll be around.
Love
I'm out
it. A
here.
little research for the gold pillars.
Yay!
All
Yeah,
right.
I'll find it and I'll include it in the show notes. Okay, take
Okay.
care.
All right.
Thank you
ladies.
guys.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.